Funko is a toy manufacturer that specializes in vinyl toys and figures called Funko Pops. Originally made as bobbleheads, this aspect was mostly phased out, but the style of the figures, big heads, small bodies, and beady black eyes, stuck around. Funko is huge, making pops and other merch for giant brands such as Disney and also Disney. But in 2016, Funko acquired the FNaF license and started creating many products using the classic characters. Plushies, mystery mini blind boxes, action figures, and of course, Funko Pops, which is what we're looking at today. Hello and welcome to Prize Corner, the series where I take a look at FNaF merch old and new. But today we're covering the latter with some of the oldest merch ever released. But first I'd like to discuss what the part 1 in the title means. Wave 1 of FNaF Funko Pops consists of 6 pops. But if you're aware of how Funko releases products, you know that it isn't that easy. Technically, Golden Freddy, Shadow Bonnie, Toy Freddy, Funtime Foxy, Jacko Chica, and Phantom Foxy are all part of Wave 1, as the back of their boxes show this checklist. Now my one rule for the series is that to review a wave, I need all of the pieces from it. But this is a special case. So this is how I'll be setting up these videos in the future. The waves will be split up into several parts. The first is simply what the back of the box says. These are a caveat for me because, especially with older merch, the exclusives are ridiculously expensive. And if I had to buy a $300 recolor to review Freddy Fazbear, I never review anything old ever. So the next part is recolors claiming to be new characters. These are technically new characters as they have a unique name and number, but I'm not going to require them to fully review a set as they are always super rare and overall not worth it. The next part is unique characters with new models that are just kind of shoved into a wave for some reason. Toy Freddy here is a new character, not even a recolor, and for some reason he is part of Wave 1, but he isn't on the back of the box and is a store exclusive. I dubbed this Part 3. And for the last part, it's all of the random glow-in-the-dark and flocked garbage Funko pumps out. They aren't as prevalent later, but here there are like 10 variants and so many of them are so pricey and I don't even want them. I'm sorry, but requiring me to buy Glow Foxy to review these figures is stupid. To give you an example of what I mean, say I have this full set of figures and I really want to review them. But there is one figure I don't have who is now super expensive and not being sold anymore because it was an exclusive. I can still review this set, as this figure really isn't part of the wave. It's just a simple bonus. That being said, if I do have all the bonuses available when I review the wave, I can review them at the same time as well. And not just all of 2 parts, but all parts available. If I'm even missing one, the other parts would be covered in their own video. So there you have it, my needlessly complicated excuse to not have to buy Shadow Freddy. To give a recap, part 1 is the basic set, part 2 is the recolors who claim to be new characters, part 3 is straight up new characters who aren't really part of the wave, and part 4 is random variants. Does it all make sense? I hope so because I'm not explaining this again, but I'll always have a brief reminder in the description along with a couple other bits of information. I'd love to review those super unique characters one day, but don't expect me to buy flocked Springtrap for this one. I also want to make it clear that unlike Youtooz, I will not be reviewing Funko stuff in order. I will simply be reviewing whatever I feel like reviewing after this video. The reason I wanted to start with this besides already having them was because I thought it would be really fun to compare and contrast with the Youtooz figures I just reviewed last time. So don't expect my next video to be Funko Pop Wave 2 because I don't even own one figure from that wave. That was a long intro. Let's not wait any longer and just jump right into the first wave of FNaF Funko Pops with Freddy Fazbear. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any official product descriptions for these, as it unfortunately seems nobody archived them. First, let's take a look at the box for this wave. The front and back show the FNaF 2 office, which merch loved to use at the time, but confusingly, the sides show the FNaF 1 office. Okay then. The front using 2's office means that all the boxes just have Toy Freddy peeking out at you. Horrifying. Each box has an artist rendition of the pop, and these are a bit strange, but I'll get back to that later. Taking Freddy out of the box, we can immediately see man standing. In fact, it's quite hard to even think of a Funko Pop that isn't just man standing. And with 4 of these figures having the exact same body mold, let's just say posing isn't exactly the best on these. That being said, I want to go on the record and say that this is the best and most accurate Freddy head shape we have ever seen from a stylized figure. I mean, look at these side by side. That is just impressive. But while we have this pulled up, obviously the biggest flaw with Freddy and the gang is the top teeth. I know someone is gonna come in and yell at me, calling me a loser for caring about 4 white cubes and a fake robot bear. But I'm sorry, accuracy is important when making merch, and if there's no quality control, we just get Toy Bonnie plushes over and over again. If this thing isn't criticized, they'll just keep doing it. Luckily for us, it seems Funko may be changing this detail with the new Snaps line. But of course, they'd never make a new figure or pop model. Except for that time that they did. Funko. Anyway, aside from that and a weird black ribbon around his hat, Freddy is very accurate here. The face and body shape is literally perfect, and while the color is a bit dark, honestly I prefer this to the actual in-game color scheme. I always found it weird how the eyes were just plopped onto the suit, but whatever, I'm used to it now. His bow tie looks good when viewed exactly like this, but if you move him, it's just kinda floating there. Weird. His mic looks a little small, but honestly, man, count your blessings that he has it at all. It's hard for me to fully explain why I love Funko Pop Freddy so much, but I actually think that this model is perfect. And maybe that's just from years of looking at it, but I'm gonna stick to my statement. He may not be the best Funko Pop, or even the best FNaF Funko Pop, but I really love this figure. I'm giving Freddy Fazbear an 8 out of 10. Yes, the same score I gave Youtooz Freddy. That one may be the better figure, but this is the superior Freddy. Sorry, as much as I love the stylized look, accuracy will always be more important to me, which is the only time I'll be saying that when comparing these waves. Next up is Freddy's right-hand man, Bonnie. Before I take him out, I want to look at that box one more time, more specifically, the preview illustration. This is supposed to be an illustration of the actual pop, but I'm certain Funko uses concept art instead. How can I tell? Look at this drawing of Bonnie. Notice anything missing? Yeah, the image of the pop doesn't have top teeth. So clearly, someone at Funko knew this was wrong. Did they add the teeth? Or were they taken out, but the figure wasn't updated? We may never know. It really annoys me that these illustrations are more accurate depictions. It would feel like false advertising if you couldn't see the figure right there. I mean, not only does Freddy not have the top teeth, but he also has an endo inside his mouth. Whatever, it's really not that big of a deal. Bonnie has almost the exact same body and head shape as Freddy, which makes sense as they were built off each other in-game. And there it isn't really noticeable, but since they have the exact same pose, it is very distracting. I can't explain it, but Bonnie looks a lot less accurate than Freddy did. Maybe it's the lack of eyebrows. With nothing to emote with, he just looks like an empty costume. He still has the same weird bow tie thing, and of course, top teeth. Speaking of Funko adding details for no reason, Bonnie has a tail. It isn't even a cute white one like the plushie has, it's just a weird purple tumor. I will give you something. Those ears? Best Bonnie ears we've ever gotten in merch. They are literally spot on. They are big and chunky and perfectly distanced and posed, and it looks great. Like I said with Youtooz Bonnie, ears are important for making a rabbit look good. So even if the figure is a little lacking, the ears make him a lot better in my opinion. I also want to mention how nice his color is. Getting Bonnie's color right is near impossible since Scott can't even keep it straight. And even if they aren't perfect, this is pretty good. One other small detail I forgot to mention with Freddy, both of them have these lines around their feet. Bonnie's are a lot easier to see as they are a different color. This is an incredibly small detail that proves that someone cared a whole lot over at Funko. I just wish they put that passion into the rest of the design. I don't hate this figure, but I also don't really like him. I think Funko Pop Bonnie is the definition of a 5 out of 10. I don't really have a complete opinion one way or the other. I like the ears, but top teeth. I like his color, but he kind of doesn't really even look like Bonnie. So yeah, a 5 fits. I also want to address the scuffed paint all over not just Bonnie, but all the figures here. This isn't Funko's fault. These are all just a result of me playing with them for years and years. And with them being very old figures, it isn't plausible for me to just get new ones. Which is also why I don't have a box for Chica. I accidentally stepped on it when reorganizing one day. Speaking of Chica, okay, so what is good here? Her beak looks great. I mean, not exactly like the game, it's a bit too wide, but it's still good. The bib is spot on, they even ended it at the back correctly. Her feet look good for the most part. I mean, they did forget her toes, but at least they aren't silver like the figure. I like the feathers. Okay, enough of that. Where do I start? How about this? No cupcake. That's a hard hit to this figure. The reason Chica stands out so much besides just being more unique is Mr. Cupcake. But not here, just the exact same pose as the other two. Nice! I'm just realizing now that I forgot to mention that Bonnie didn't come with his guitar, which is weird since the mini and the figure both came with it, but I guess I'm just so used to his empty hands. But with Chica here, it's a lot more distracting. She has these black pits around her eyes that, yes, she does have in-game, but the others do as well. I know hers are more prominent, but why just give it to her? It makes her stand out so much, and not in a good way. Since her eyes are just black dots, she also needs to have these white rings around them, which looks so stupid. Like, wow. Remember how Youtooz did this? They gave the character the colored eyes, so when they are placed in these dark pits, they stand out and look great because of it. Here, it just looks so bad. Like, these are so distracting that it makes her look less like Chica. I mean, I can still recognize her, but she looks more like a bootleg than an official piece of merch. And that's not even it for her eyes. They put her brows in the wrong direction. Are you kidding me? I know this segment was just me ranting about her eyes, but can you blame me? This figure isn't awful or anything. I've seen much worse Chica merch. But with not even a cupcake to save her, Chica is getting a 3 out of 10. Yes, she is bad, but she isn't standout abysmal. Hopefully this next one will be a step up and not yet another step down. But I have faith in Foxy the Pirate, who got his full name even though the others didn't for some reason. Finally, someone with a unique body shape. This Foxy is actually really good. I'm not gonna say he's perfect by any means, but in comparison to the last two we looked at, he is great. I mean, if you want to talk inaccuracies, he doesn't have that many. No gold teeth is weird since the plush had them, and the eye patch going all the way around his head is excusable. But the way they did his jaw just sucks. On the box it looks so good with it being disconnected from the rest of him, just like in the game. But here it's just kind of welded into his fat head, which I know I criticized Youtooz for, but with the perfectly sized body, I can excuse the oversized head for once. Overall, the head isn't my favorite here. It isn't bad, he actually looks quite like Foxy, especially in the expression. It's just a little strange. I can't exactly put my finger on it. That being said, the body is literally perfect. The arms are just the right skinniness and the shape is spot on. You can see the endo behind the withering in his chest, and the endo is actually painted silver. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. Youtooz and later Funko somehow, please take notes. Speaking of the endo, wow, the feet and hands are modeled so well. I really appreciate all the effort they put into his body here. I'm also very jealous that that attention wasn't given to Bonnie or Chica. So yeah, this figure is actually really good. If only the head was up to the same standards, but I mean, it wasn't even really that bad. Just eh. So for Foxy the Pirate, I'll give him a solid 8 out of 10. Let's hope the next character keeps this up. We jump from FNaF 1 right over FNaF 2, even though it's on the box art, and land on Springtrap, which is fair. As the main series villain, I get wanting to make merch of him right away. Just as long as you get back to FNaF 2 eventually and hopefully not just Toy Freddy, BB, and Withered Bonnie for some fucking reason. I'm gonna be honest here. I know the common consensus is that this pop sucks, but I won't lie. I love this thing. Look, I just looked at the Youtooz and snapped Springtrap for a later video, and after that, coming back to him makes him look like a masterpiece. And even if that sounds unfair, how about this? Compared to the other figures of this series, he looks like a masterpiece. This guy is hyper detailed. It makes you wonder how he was in the same wave as the rest of these. Some highlights include the large scar over his eye, weirdly shaped nose, big blocky ears, and one even having the tube endo I mentioned earlier, a bunch of big blocky teeth, pretty good withering for an early pop, and of course, one of the only times anyone has ever made his feet look good. Don't get me wrong, there are some bad aspects to this guy. I mean, his pose is still the exact same as the first three, are you kidding me? And he also has the same white rings that Chica has, but in my opinion, those actually really fit him. Not only does he have 3 friends that stand next to him constantly who don't have this, but Springtrap himself in-game has these rings around his eyes. So yeah, this is kind of a good thing. Another thing I could see some people not really liking is the lack of gore. Forgetting that this is a children's toy, it is kinda weird that Springtrap is Aftonless, with the spots under his eyes just being green, and yes, this does look bad. But with all the red in his tummy from the wires, it's kind of not necessary there anyway. Okay, how about something I actually don't like? Well, his mouth doesn't go all the way around his head, but I don't know how well known that was at the time anyway. And he also only has 4 fingers because they clearly just used a template, not caring about the details. This isn't a huge deal, but for how important those hands are in the series, it is super lame that they cheaped out for them. For one more thing I don't love here, unfortunately, as a byproduct of being a Funko Pop, his facial expression is just not Springtrap. He looks so curious when he should look tired or bored. Okay, I don't know what this expression is, but it isn't like this one. Like I said, not exactly something you can fix here, but it is worth mentioning. And for the all-time weirdest decision in this pop, they remembered his button, unlike every other piece of Springtrap merch. But they made it red. I have to assume that was a mistake. Ranking this pop is really hard. I do like it a lot more than Freddy and Foxy, but I don't know how much I can justify a 9 for a pop Springtrap, especially with all those weird decisions and errors. But I mean, overall, it looks just like him. Sure, some details are lost here, but for how much they actually included, this is kind of impressive. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future, but I think Springtrap is an 8 out of 10. Yep, another 8. As much as I love this guy, if I rated him the same as Youtooz Chica, I'd probably check myself into a prison. I know 3 8s in one video seems weird, but those 3 figures are all so good with just a few weird issues that are pulling them down from being truly amazing. This next figure does not have that problem. Nightmare Freddy. I genuinely don't know where to start. How about with why? Like, in general, why was this made? The only reason I can imagine is that Funko wanted to quickly capitalize on FNaF 4's release, but they didn't have time to make a new model. So they just took classic Freddy and slapped a bunch of random shit on him that kind of relates to the nightmares. But no. This isn't Nightmare Freddy. This is Nightmare Classic Freddy. The only thing I like about him is that they actually did bother to update his feet and hands to be more accurate to Nightmare Freddy's, which is good. And honestly, the Nightmare hands look great here. But this just makes me even more annoyed, because they bothered to update the model at least a little bit to change this, but they refused to make other way easier changes, like his color. The real Nightmare Freddy is dark brown. This guy is just Freddy. Nightmare Freddy has a chunk taken out of his ear. This guy is just Freddy. Nightmare Freddy has freckles, a nightmare endo, a square head and body. This guy is just Freddy. Way too low bow tie and all. Every time I notice something that I like, it just makes me more angry. Like, yes, the withering on his waist is surprisingly accurate, but then why just make it random everywhere else? They gave him red eyes. Cool. Oh, except for the fact that he doesn't have red eyes. So now this isn't even a cool thing he has. It's just further confusion about why the other pops don't have this. The next real pop wave was Nightmare themed. It had 4 pops: Nightmare, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and regular Cupcake for some reason. Only 4 figures in the wave. Strange. It's almost like they couldn't include a certain character because he was already made. I genuinely blame this guy being here for the mediocrity-ness that was that wave. Sure, the pops themselves weren't that amazing, but just because he exists, this is the smallest FNaF wave ever, and it's all his fault. And now he will forever look just awful next to the characters from his own game. But to be fair, he looks awful just about anywhere you put him. To show you how pathetic this pop really is, mine has a slightly tilted hat. And when I saw it, I was like, oh cool, is this a reference to his model I'm just not remembering? Not only is it not a reference, but it also isn't even part of the pop. It's just an error that mine had. But that fleeting moment of hope for this figure was swept away instantly as I remembered this pop is a piece of garbage, and that I was grasping for the slightest model differences to maybe find something I don't hate. Maybe the worst pop I own. 0 out of 10. Yep, episode 2, and I've already found an item I hate more than anything else. I know I said some nice things about it, but in my opinion, anything good this pop does is overshadowed by the awfulness. And now Nightmare Freddy is stuck with this awful pop, and Wave 2 is forever shortchanged and Freddy-less. Okay, enough with the dramatics. I'm joking around. I mean, he does suck, but I won't lie, this figure is hilariously bad. I'd laugh more if he didn't genuinely make me mad to look at. How about we move on already and get to the recap? The first wave of FNaF Funko Pops was rocky, to say the least. Sure, half of the figures were great, but even when I liked a figure, I still had a laundry list of complaints. I mean, compare this to Youtooz Wave 1. Sure, there were less figures, but its worst figure just wasn't for me. This wave's worst figure is possibly the worst figure in that series. While I do stand by my opinion that Freddy, Foxy, and Springtrap are seriously well made, I can't ignore the Chica-shaped hole in this wave. So while I do love these pops, they are crazy nostalgic for me, I think I'll have to give wave 1 a 6 out of 10. I mean, there were only 2 pops that I hated, and the ones I loved are amazing. Don't think I'm trying to downplay that fact. Better luck next time, Funko, but good effort. Thanks for watching. On screen now is my updated FNaF merch tier list so you can see how the oldest figures stacked up with the newest ones. This list will be updated with every new episode, and if you want to rank them alongside me, the tier maker will be in the description. And while you're down there, send me your filled out list through my Discord. I'd love to see how our opinions differ. And if you like that Nightmare Freddy pop, I am genuinely curious as to how. So please tell me in the comments. Maybe you could change my mind, but I doubt it. I'll see you in the next episode of Prize Corner where we look at the next Youtooz wave in line. See you guys then.